Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Now today, as I've said in a couple of other videos, like week before last, at the time of this going up, I was at Hannah's graduation. She finished her degree and she's moving on to her masters now and whatever else. But as a result, I was lucky enough to be able to go and celebrate with her as part of actually going and witnessing her actual graduation, but then also, being able to hang out with her afterwards. The thing is, though, I kind of finished my education, kind of A level, and then moved off into kind of other areas to get my qualifications, mostly through work. Some my coaching stuff, especially, I went out and funded myself and went and did that kind of completely independently because it was something that I wanted to do. And so as a result, the most of a graduation that I've really seen or interacted with was kind of students that I was working with getting really hyped up and then kind of leaving work because they were graduating and moving on to other things, or where certain workplaces that I've been in have had like a kind of graduation for either people who have finished training courses or people who have done like finished their probation and stuff like that. In which case, the word graduation was literally just a case of, right, well done, moving on. I remember when I got one of my when I finished my courses through one job, I literally got called into the office by my manager. He showed me that I had got the passes on the system, at which point he said, have 5 minutes, make some calls if you want to just tell anyone that you've got this, otherwise I need you back out working again. In which case, the pomp and circumstance kind of around the whole graduation that Hannah had was really alien, and as a result of that, though, it brought up a whole load of different thoughts to me. Most of the people that I've coached to one extent or another have been uni students or kind of young people coming into work. And so, seeing this mass of young individuals kind of moving forward and the process through which they went was and how it's kind of seemingly molded parts of their worldview and so on and so forth. It was really interesting to be there to observe. As much as I was there to celebrate with Hannah, there was more stuff going on that was just really interesting to kind of pick up on. And as a result, I wanted to bring this to you guys because I look at my kind of audience figures on YouTube, and most of you guys are university age or just after, and so as a result, firstly, I hope that the kind of videos that I do, be they the gaming ones or the more kind of news and current affairs ones, or stuff like this where it's observations or lists of things that might help you from the coaching side or whatever else. I hope you're getting value from what I'm trying to put out there. Because again, I started this channel to help because I didn't feel like I was able to reach enough people at a time kind of individually, and kind of doing so was kind of taxing in and of itself in a way, and still is. But the thing that there were some of the things that I just observed I wanted to bring up because there were, like, as someone who values knowledge, information, learning, like, I saw a lot going on there that was both in favor of that, but also an awful lot that just didn't seem to add up with it, considering kind of the environment that in theory universities are supposed to have. And so the first thing that kind of stood out to me was kind of through the whole thing, with all of the daft robes and the silly hats and all the rest of it. There was this very, it was almost like a set of divides that were put in place. This kind of stratification of the old school, like, experienced teachers, academics, almost sitting in judgment of all of the parents and all of the families that were sat in the main area of the abbey that the graduation ceremony took place in, and then you had the students all sat off on like one side, and they came across and then came all the way down the middle and out, and I was just sat there going, hold on. Firstly, I didn't like the layout. It seemed, I mean, I didn't like the kind of pomp and circumstance of it anyway. As said, stupid robes and silly hats are stupid robes and silly hats, and they're such they're a fragment of such archaic tradition that in a place of learning and progress, I don't really think has a place anymore. It's just a way of wasting time and kind of bigging yourself up over nothing, as well, which was, you know, the thing that stood out to me. But also it was the parade, the procession of academics, the procession of students across the stage and out the back. Fine, celebrate each one individually, but it was a case of kind of, in my mind, like, celebrating those students would have probably been better served if they had just been close to the front and everyone else had been at the back and it was more spread out. You know, it's, I mean, this is maybe me being kind of a bit anti-authority, to one extent or another, but I felt throughout the whole thing that it was you had these academics sat on stage who were kind of already celebrated, wearing all their different colours, all their stupid robes and silly hats and whatever else, and they were inducting this new generation into their higher echelon, almost, whilst everyone else that was there from all manner of different walks of life, and some definitely had qualifications that were equivalent to the ones being awarded, but others were not. It felt so archaic and broken, and I felt like there was there had to be a better way of doing it. Yeah, like the pomp and the ceremony and the dullness of it. You know, it just kind of, I was like, these people have achieved, but they've not actually achieved anything. They've achieved a piece of paper that has been granted by the people sat on that stage. In which case, they've jumped through some arbitrary hoops that have been set out in front of them. Some of them have taken that information on board and done very well with it. They can apply what they have learned, which is the important thing. But many of them won't. Many of them won't have bothered. University, especially as I was working at one for a while in Surrey, they've become high school plus. You know, you've got spoilt kids who are going and doing pointless degrees that they will never use, but just want to have the piece of paper, just want to spend more time without responsibility, more time sat outside of the real world in academia, being isolated and protected by its shell, you know, and then seeing all this pomp and circumstance and all the rest of it, it just seems to reinforce the wall. It seems to keep those kids from really progressing, from really learning, and from kind of really putting across kind of, either if they've actually learned to apply, great, but if they haven't, then but they've managed to jump through the hoops, then they're still going to get celebrated. They're all being celebrated, and it's purely, you know, there's no uniformity to it, which bugs me, because if you go to back to earlier levels of education, then there's some level of uniformity in the syllabus used across most schools, if not all schools, which is another reason also why I disagree with things like kind of free schools and academies and some of the other bits and pieces that revolve around that, with them choosing their own curricula and so on. But kind of looking at it, just the ceremony around these kind of half achievements in a lot of ways, you know, it didn't tick me off. It just kind of, it didn't sit well with me as I was sat there watching it, you know. And then, you know, to as we were coming out, and as I was kind of, I'm someone that, as you may have guessed, likes to kind of pay attention to my surroundings, likes to be aware of what's going on, and so as a result, when I'm stood and I'm waiting, and so on, I tend to listen, I tend to watch and observe and see what else is going on. You know, and I tend to ask questions of it if I don't kind of have more of that. But also hearing, like in passing, the number of others that were so happy and so kind of emboldened by the fact that they had just been given a piece of paper that wasn't actually their degree, but was a piece of paper that said, "Well done, buy a photo." You know, them being so emboldened by their daft clothes and their being paraded around and all the rest of it, that they then started putting themselves even above the people that had got them there. You know, at the end of the ceremony, the vice chancellor, I think he was, actually made a point of thanking all the parents and the families and friends that were in the hall, because without them, many of those kids wouldn't have had access, wouldn't have been able to get to where they were. And yet outside, just overhearing, it was like, I've got a degree now. I'm now kind of above those other people that are surrounding me that have helped me get there. And I'm glad to say that you know, Hannah and her friends and so on and so, you know, those people that were around her and so on weren't like that. But observing it from a distance and seeing it more than just a couple of times throughout the crowd and overhearing it in passing, you know, it speaks to me, again, after working with numerous students both in workplaces and through coaching and whatever else. You know, it speaks to me of a bigger kind of cultural problem that, again, the pomp and circumstance only seems to be reinforcing. And there's this level of removal from reality where it's like, right, you've got the piece of paper. Oh, you're going to do perfectly now. When that's not the case. You can get as many pieces of paper as you like, but unless you can actually apply the information, unless you can do it, then it's irrelevant. You know, universities are great for networking because obviously, if as I've said numerous times in the past, it's who you know more so than what you know. But in regards to the information and stuff that's available there, sometimes it's just not enough. There's just not enough information there. They're not taught well enough. And so it's what you are taught needs to be, and what you have the opportunity to learn needs to be learned and then properly applied. And yet, from what I'm hearing, the pieces of paper, and well, hearing and seeing, the pieces of paper are apparently so much more important than they actually are. You know, there's this kind of level of removal from reality as a result of going into academia, which frustrates me, especially as I'm talking to students, as kind of I'm in a relationship with a student. I'm kind of surrounded by younger friends and people still in this situation, or people who are prolonging that situation through further kind of postgraduate higher education, which kind of, again, continues to isolate them, continues to keep them in this bubble. And many of them don't realise it as well, because especially when they're individuals who have moved away from home and therefore are by themselves for the first time, having to be supposedly an adult for the first time, having to be self-sufficient for the first time, and yet they're still in this very safe, isolated, enclosed environment. And as a result, they think they've grown up. They have the perception of growing up, of being an adult, and yet they don't actually progress, and they don't actually have to. And that's why, if you've watched anything from Simon Sinek on the millennial problem, or talk to employers from all over the world, they have so much in the way. Just they get so frustrated with students, with young people, with people coming out of education and into the workplace. And it's because these kids have, the industrial model finishes at kind of the end of kind of secondary school, and then they move into university, which for the most part prompts more university rather than actually teaching and developing the skills that then will allow, alongside whatever else you're doing. You can learn to be professional, you can learn time management, you can learn problem solving, you can learn cooperation, you can learn to kind of both toe the line and ways to present information in a way that doesn't toe the line but won't get you sacked. You can learn all of those things are learned skills, and yet none of them are developed. Like, there might be the odd course here and there in some business school that specifically focus areas on that. But during the Vice Chancellor's speech, he actually said employers want you to be able to solve problems, to be able to work with other people, and to work hard. And then he was like, and I think we've taught you how to do this, or at least I hope we have. And it's like, from what I've seen of what Hannah's gone through and what her friends have gone through, none of that is accurate. They've not been taught how to properly problem solve. They've been taught to, again, jump through an arbitrary hoop, which, again, doesn't help you when you're given a situation where you're under pressure and need to solve the problem, not just hit a certain level. You ask some of these people, right, well, you've got this problem, you've got this thing, what are you going to do to solve it? They go, I don't know. They don't know, I'll work it out. Yeah, they put that own limit in their way, which we've talked about limiting beliefs before, and it's a problem, but it's one that's much, much more prevalent from people that have got stuck into systems where they think that there's a pass grade on everything. It's in regards to working hard. Yeah, to a degree, sure, they've had to. I'm very proud of the fact that Hannah did work to those loopholes, or not loopholes, hoops to jump through, and she put an awful lot of work and effort and time into the things that she was doing. So working hard, sure, but then again, there are some people that don't work hard. Some of them drop out, but some of them just breeze through. Some of them scrape by, and they're allowed to scrape by. And so that working hard thing, that very much comes from the type of person going into the system, and then that's not worked with, it's not moulded, it's not developed, it's just left to lie as they progress. And then like the last thing, the working with other people, well, yeah, sure, the working with other people is a thing that group projects and stuff like that develop to a degree, but the thing is, there's a difference between working with people and living with people. Because if you go into work and you have to do one project with one person that you don't like, then that's fine, you just do the project. If you're going in every day and you're having to be on a team with people that you butt heads with all the time, that you are having to work with and basically live out the majority of each day, each kind of waking day with, then that's a completely different situation. And it's, again, not one that's addressed, not one that's developed. It's one of the biggest issues that I keep coming across in the people that I coach or have coached. And it's they can't ignore people. They don't know how to be professional and hold kind of themselves to themselves. And they haven't learned that kind of the personal responsibility to control their own emotions, control their own reactions, is only on them, and no one else can make them do it. None of these things are getting developed and taught, and as a result, it's left out from kind of the situation that's there. Now, I've mentioned all of these things in various ways in other videos, but actually seeing it being witness to kind of the cogs of the system at work, it just kind of brought it all back into my head in very neat packages, and it was like, right, that's an example of this is an example of that. And as a result, like, it worries me genuinely, because, you know, I remember when, I think it was, might have been under Gordon Brown in this country. It was either, I think it was either Tony Blair or Gordon Brown that first said this, and then it was reiterated by Cameron when he came in with the coalition government. And they were all saying stupid shit like, we want 40-50% of kind of school leavers going straight into university and going through and getting degrees. Firstly, devaluing what a degree actually is. Secondly, diluting the next generation of talent that would be teaching those degrees in various ways. Excuse me. But also, it leads to these problems where you're just prolonging the amount of time these kids are in school, and they're not necessarily actually developing the things that you want them to develop. The industrial model of education is flawed anyway for earlier education. But the thing is, until something like universal basic income kind of kicks in somewhere and starts developing, you know, you're going to run into these issues where it's, right, if you've lived in academia from basically the age of like 4 or 5 at the latest, all the way through to kind of 24, 25, possibly even up to kind of 30, up to my age, then, you know, actually going out into the world, making the difference that millennial individuals apparently list as one of their things that they want to kind of feel when they're in a job. They want to feel that they're making a difference, feel that they're making an impact and changing the world for whatever good that they perceive. And looking at it, you're not getting that. You're not getting anywhere with it, because the skills required to do that aren't taught in some overly analysed academic course. They're not taught by kind of this classroom model of teaching. They're not taught by the culture and atmosphere at a university by any stretch. You know, and as a result, that's where the millennial problem kicks in. That's where me witnessing all of this kind of sees all these threads and overhears all these things, and yeah, they're snippets, but all they do is reinforce what I've already witnessed through work and life. And it worries me, because obviously at some point in the future, should I have children and they want to go to university and they want to learn more, then again, I feel like the university isn't going to do half of what actually needs to be taught and developed. And it's like, I can, you know, as a parent, yes, there is a large kind of responsibility on me or any other parent, as and when it comes to that point, to develop and teach their kids. But again, if, let's say, hypothetically, one of my children decides to move as far away as possible from me, and the only source of learning, reinforcement, development is the culture in this kind of place. You know, we're seeing the problems in the United States universities, we're seeing the problems in the universities in the UK, and then witnessing this very insular, kind of walled in kind of atmosphere. It only breeds more concerns for me into the future, for not just students and people and the population in general, especially the population that will be going through academia or interacting with it at some point, but also for like myself, for Hannah, who's still going through the kind of postgraduate higher education, and then also for any kids that I happen to have in the future that are stuck with this crappy system that is outdated, doesn't work, doesn't teach enough, and kind of doesn't present enough information or test it in a way that's more application. And obviously it changes from course to course, but so many of these courses are like demonstrably lacking, because as soon as those people leave university and head into the job that in theory they have just received the best possible training for, their employers turn around and go, why did we hire this person? They're such a pain in the ass. But anyway, I realise that this video has probably turned into more of a generalised rant about education again, but like, these were the thoughts that were kind of coming into my head as I was kind of watching and observing and listening and paying attention to what was going on. And I just kind of wanted to bring them to you guys. You know, it's again, most of you guys are around this age. Most of the people that are watching this video are on the younger side to one degree or another. And so, you know, it's this set of issues which, to be fair, the way to solve it starts with the people going through the system. Because if you're the ones that are looking for change, looking for progress, looking to alter that system, as you come out of it, if you're able to keep your head, then you're the ones who are going to potentially be the next people to kind of take control of that system, administer it. And you're the ones that are going to be able to change it, streamline it, make it better. I think I've talked about before kind of the ideal kind of education system that I would like to see eventually instituted. But maybe I'll do a specific video on that in the future as well, just to outline it as a solution to one of the world's many problems, especially one of the kind of Western world's problems in various ways, considering how we treat education. But again, I'd love to hear what you guys think, your experiences with graduations and things like that. Again, want to say that I'm so proud of my girlfriend for getting through all the stuff that she's been through university so far, and you know, I'm really looking forward to not just kind of congratulating her after her next kind of steps in this area, but also like going along, seeing what she's doing and kind of picking it apart and experiencing with her, you know, to one degree or another. But otherwise, guys, as said, I'd love to hear what your comments are kind of around this area. If you've been through graduations, if you've seen changes in people, your opinions of the atmospheres in universities, the daft traditions, the silly bullshit, all that kind of thing, you know. And then otherwise, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you found this at all interesting, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.